Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Gaming Movie Jerks. This is part 1 of our new series, Cuphead Bosses Ranked. For this series, we fought all the main bosses in Studio MDHR's ludicrous shoot-'em-up game, Cuphead. This was done in 2-player mode, and joining me in this video was our editor, Jordan, who is player 1 in all the footage you'll see.
Greetings. Cuphead is well known for its amazing art style, inspired by cartoons of the 1930s and 40s, but it's also known for its extreme difficulty. This is the first of 4 parts, focusing entirely on all the bosses that we consider to be easy.
Now, in the vast majority of games, all of these bosses would be pretty tough. But this isn't just any game. This is Cuphead, and these bosses are pretty easy by its standards. With that said, let's jump right in. First on the list at number 17 is the Root Pack. There isn't much to say here. The first phase is the potato who shoots these balls of dirt. I'm not sure what they're supposed to be, but they're not really that hard to dodge, at least.
This first phase does a great job of teaching the core gameplay mechanics for a new player. You dodge the boss's projectiles, you can parry the pink ones, and of course you have to shoot at the boss. The only mechanic that's not explicitly taught in this first phase is dashing. They kept it simple and only taught the bare basics, which is fine for the first phase of the first boss of the entire game.
The potato is followed by an onion, whose only attack is crying. All you have to do is move slightly every few seconds to dodge the tears. This phase is even easier than the first one. The final phase for this fight is the carrot, who is a bit tougher than the last 2 phases. He has 2 separate attacks. Advanced, I know. He alternates between shooting homing carrot missiles and these telepathic rings, I guess, maybe?
The rings can actually be a little tough to dodge if you don't know the pattern. Pattern recognition is probably the most important skill to be good at this game, so the Root Pack's final stage really does a great job of giving you an example of what to expect with this game.
This is, of course, just a taste of what's to come. Now, despite this being such an easy fight that teaches all the main gameplay mechanics, it's likely that new players will do the run and gun level first. On the map, the first thing you'll come across is the run and gun level called Forest Follies, which is honestly extremely difficult, way harder than this boss. It's also entirely possible that a new player could come across the next boss on our list, saving the easier Root Pack for later. Next on our list is Goopy LeGrand. Goopy is harder than the Root Pack, even though you're probably likely to run into him first on the map screen.
During the first phase, Goopy is just a small slime, his design obviously being a nod to the Dragon Quest series, or Dragon Warrior as it's known in the US. This stage cements the dashing skill, as it is downright necessary to dodge him here.
Although sometimes he'll pull a Chun-Li on you and bounce off the walls.
He also sometimes does this thing where he stretches his face at you. I don't know, just duck and it's no problem.
In the next phase, he pops a pill and gets bigger. This is pretty much the same as before, except now he's a Dragon Quest slime, Chun-Li, and E. Honda all put together. He's a bit harder to dodge, but the strategy is still the same. In the final phase, he turns into a giant headstone. This can be a little difficult because he face slams you like Batman face slamming Joker in The Dark Knight.
What does Harvey know about you and his little bunny? Where are they?
This phase doesn't really fit with the theme, in my opinion, though.
Yeah, what does a headstone have to do with the slime we were just fighting?
But still, overall, I find Goopy LeGrand to be pretty repetitive, but not difficult at all. At number 15, we have Ribby and Croaks. Not only is this boss next on the list, it's also next chronologically in the game. Unless you decide to do the Hildeberg first and die in a flaming airship. Anyways, like the last one, this fight has a couple nods to Street Fighter. I love the reference to E. Honda's slap move here in this first phase.
Along with the slap move, they can also shoot flaming sheep that come from above. The strategy here is basically just ducking and jumping like usual, as well as shooting the sheep when they're coming down at you.
In the next phase, they'll stand on opposite sides of the screen. One of them will shoot projectiles at you, and the other turns into a fan and pushes you into the first one. I don't know which one's Ribby and which one's Croaks, so makes this a little bit confusing to word.
All in all, this phase is just kind of annoying, but it's still pretty easy to avoid all these projectiles.
In the final phase, Ribby and Croaks turn into a slot machine somehow. You pull the lever by parrying, but you win every time. Boy, do I wish that's how it worked in real life.
Except winning the slots in this fight is a bad thing, because they'll start throwing different types of platforms at you depending on which symbols line up on the machine. This is also the only time you can damage the slot machine, which is something that took us a minute to realize. That's why you'll see us shooting at it without doing anything in most of the footage.
Overall, this boss is kind of deceptively easy. When we first played it, we thought it was really hard, but upon replaying all the bosses to make this list, we beat it in one try. It's not like we're good or anything, I don't think. At number 14, we have Jimmy the Great. Finally, someone not in the chronological order of the game. Jimmy is the first boss from Inkwell L2 to appear on the list. This is also another one that we used to think was pretty tough, but beat it in our first try when getting footage for the video.
Now, just because it's not that hard does not mean that it's a fun fight. Jimmy is actually one of our least favorite bosses to fight in the entire game. The first phase is really annoying. He can do a few different things chosen at random.
The worst is the swords, which fly at you really quickly, then change direction unpredictably. Fair. Instead of swords, he could throw jewelry, which is a much smaller projectile, pretty easy to dodge. Finally, he could launch homing cats at you, but they're slow and, again, pretty easy to dodge.
In the second of 5 stages, Jimmy has 5 phases for whatever reason. This fight is way too long. In this second phase, you have to get through a series of columns, destroying the blocks with the face on it. It's really easy.
The next phase has you fighting his sarcophagus, and inside of it is outer space. I don't know. Mummified Jimmy will eventually pop out and shoot eyeballs while ghosts fly at you. Now, I'm no eyeball scientist, but I don't think you normally get that many eyeballs. Like what?
You're probably going to take a hit here, as there's a lot of annoying stuff flying around.
It only gets weirder from here, though. I've lost track of what phase we're on, but now you fight a marionette version of yourself? This one's pretty simple, and a few projectiles, and they're easy to dodge.
Strangely, this fight just seems to get easier as it goes on, though I guess that changes with the last phase. In the 5th and final phase, Jimmy's head appears and shoots lasers at you.
If you aren't too busy being distracted by this game's amazing artwork, then you'll find his moves are pretty well telegraphed. It's kind of a shame that you have to try so hard to ignore the fantastic art. Otherwise, you'll just die over and over again.
Of course, that'll probably happen either way.
Either way, though, this stage, and in fact this whole fight, is still pretty easy.
It's more annoying than difficult, that's for sure.
Jumping back to Inkwell L1, we have Cagney Carnation at number 13. This is the first boss that we consider to be just a little difficult. He still belongs in the easy category, but this one is tough enough that you might die a few times.
This whole level is based around these 3 floating platforms that are above a ground level. In order to dodge projectiles, you have to be paying attention so you can drop down or jump up onto the platforms.
In the first phase, there are a few different moves he can do. First up is the face-throwing move. This will take up either the entire top or bottom level, so you'll need to switch accordingly. However, while all this is happening, there are projectiles falling from the sky. They hit the ground and turn into homing projectiles. This is really, really annoying, and you'll probably take a hit here.
You can also throw this boomerang rabbit thing, which goes across the top part of the screen and then returns through the bottom part. This just requires some attention and timing. It's not too bad.
In the next phase, he has the ability to cover up multiple platforms with thorny vines. And if you're on that platform, you'll get hurt. This alone isn't too bad, but there's also a million, trillion, quadrillion other things on the screen here.
It is exceptionally difficult to get through this phase without taking any damage. Overall, even though Cagney Carnation only has 2 phases, which in some ways makes him better than Jimmy the Great, who has 5, which by the way is more than anyone else in the game.
But both of Cagney's phases are quite a bit harder than all of Jimmy's, though. I mean, Cagney Carnation is significantly harder for sure. At number 12, and the last in the easy category, is Hildeberg. This one actually took us 9 tries to beat, even though she's an Inkwell IL-1 boss that isn't really that hard.
She starts off riding this unicycle thing. Wait, isn't she supposed to be an airship? Why does she ride a unicycle? She can fly.
Meanwhile, little ships come and shoot a single bullet at you before trying to fly away. At some point, she'll laugh and you can get hit by the actual physical words coming out of her mouth.
In her next phase, she'll switch between 3 astral signs. There's Taurus, the bull, in which she violently jabs her horns at you. This is extremely hard to dodge because of the lack of telegraphing. You basically get no warning that it's coming, just a couple of frames.
Cuphead and Mugman's planes move so slow that there just isn't enough time to dodge if you're in her path. Even using the shrinking ability won't help much.
Taurus is definitely the hardest, but she could also turn into Gemini or Sagittarius. We don't have any footage of Gemini, but it's not hard to guess what happens. There's 2 of her, because Gemini, they shoot at you or something. Sagittarius, meanwhile, shoots 1 giant arrow, which is easy to dodge, along with a few smaller homing star projectiles. There's not much else to say about this phase. It's definitely the easiest part of the fight, regardless of which zodiac sign she turns into.
In her last phase, she turns into a giant crescent moon, of course. She can attack with her face, something that is oddly common in this game. This is the 3rd attack like that we've seen so far, and this is only part 1. Other than that, these UFOs come in at the top of the screen and shoot vertical laser beams. These can be really hard to dodge, even impossible at times, depending on where you are and when it fires. In my opinion, it's just not fair, especially since when you're probably on low HP by the end of this fight.
Hildeberg may be in part 1, meaning that we think she's easy, but she's definitely a step above the other bosses in this video. If it's your first time playing, she can be especially tough.
Alright, that's it for part 1. Part 2 will cover some more difficult bosses. Each part after this will probably be longer than the last, as we always have more to say about the harder bosses. That's it for now. See you guys next time on the Gaming Movie Jerks.